Hey, Foxy listener, thank you so much for tuning in to episode 32. On today's episode, I'm speaking with my friend Kathryn. I met Kathryn through a group called the Achievement Club put on by Erin Sky Kelly. We're on the same call every morning on Sundays at 6:30 a.m. We talk about our week, what went right, what went wrong, and what we want to accomplish in the following week. And it's a really great accountability group. But through this group, I got to know Kathryn on a little bit more of a personal level. And then over time, I actually got to meet her in person a few times. I got to speak on stage at a summit event with her, and we've attended some of the same conferences together. And each time I met with her, I got to know a little bit more about her story. And each time it intrigued me more and more. And so I was really excited when she agreed to come on and tell you guys her story. And I know it will inspire you just as much as it did me. Kathryn and I sit and talk about negative self-talk and how sometimes we can get really stuck in it. Comparing your chapter 1 to others' chapter 15. Figuring out how and why to ask for help. And then we also talk a little bit about wearing high heels and jeans. It's a great episode. I had so much fun with Kathryn, and I look forward to many more calls and getting to know her better. So sit back, grab your favorite drink, a warm blanket, and a notebook, and enjoy episode 32 with my friend Kathryn.
Welcome to Fox Talks Business Podcast with your host, Tanya Fox. Tanya has been an entrepreneur for over 20 years, owning retail, service, and franchise. She holds no punches and is never afraid to talk about the nitty-gritty. Together, you'll explore the good, the bad, and the motivational of business life, turning obstacles into opportunities and failures into successes. So grab your favorite drink and let's have some fun. Here's your host, speaker, crafter, and collaborator, Tanya Fox.
So thank you so much for coming on the show, Kathryn. I'm so excited to have you.
Thank you for asking me. I'm excited to be here. This is really fantastic.
So I got to hear you speak in Calgary, and I absolutely loved your story, and I really wanted to share it with my audience. So I want to just jump right into it. So tell us a little bit about your story.
Well, my story from the speeches, it actually came about from an accident that I had. March 31st, I was participating in a fitness challenge. I was 2 weeks into the fitness challenge, and I was struggling a lot with negative self-talk, and actually that's what brought me to the fitness challenge in the first place, was from kind of transformation weekend in January, kind of backtracking a little bit. I knew that I needed to make some changes in a lot of myself because I just felt like I wasn't very happy, and I just felt like I don't like the term I was losing myself, because I hear a lot of people say that, and I really don't think we're lost. I just think that there's parts of us that need a little bit more nurturing than what we tend to remember to give. And so there was a lot of parts of Kathryn that needed a little bit of work. And so I found this fitness challenge in my hometown, and I saw some of the ladies that were getting some amazing results from it. But the biggest thing I saw was the confidence that was changing for them. It wasn't even like the body transforming or anything like that. It was like what really drew me to it was the confidence and the happiness and things like that. And so I went ahead and I joined it, and I noticed actually right away, within about 7 days, from the nutrition plan and the consistency and the meeting the other women and everybody that was there, I was starting to feel a lot better. But this one particular morning, I had this shitty attitude, and it was one that had followed me around for a long time. I just didn't recognize it, and I didn't realize that I wasn't the only one that was having it. And so that morning I was thinking, you should just quit. You should maybe not go. You suck at it anyway. So, and I, like, me and this shitty attitude, kind of met everybody at the door. And all of my friends, we kind of warmed up around the block, and then we went in. And I was kind of comparing my chapter 1 to everybody else's chapter 15 in this fitness challenge, because a lot of the girls had done them before.
Right.
And I'd never set foot inside of a proper gym before on a basis of my own self-care, because I grew up with this attitude that people that go to the gym are just gristleheads and they're idiots and blah, blah, blah. And they're just going to shoot you full of hormones. And I was like, dude, I'm not going into that dark place.
Right.
So, so on this particular morning, as we were starting out with this one challenge. She kind of changed it up a little bit each time we went, and we would do Tabata or Pilates or whatever. And so this one morning we were doing this Kamata stuff, Kamata, I don't know really technically how to say it. And so each station we were at for a minute, and we did whatever the exercise was at that station as many times as we could in a minute. And so I started out on this one station. There was 2 bean bags. They were kind of oblong bean bags and 2 medicine balls. And as she's describing this, I was thinking, man, it would really suck if that thing hit you in the face. And as I'm throwing this stupid oblong beanbag down, they don't bounce because they're dead weight. But if you hit them off of a mat, you can get them to bounce up an inch. So our job was to throw it down as hard as we could on the mat. When it bounced up that inch, we squatted down and grabbed it before it dropped that inch. And so I was kind of awkwardly trying to throw this ridiculous oblong rolling around awkward beanbag without my face being anywhere near it, thinking, all these thoughts were going through. It was really graceful, let me tell you. And so then we got through this one, and I was thinking, well, this really sucks. Like, I don't want to do the beanbag next time. I want a ball next time. And so I was like, Miss Negativity. And then I went over to this one. The next one was we had weights, and we were doing like planking. And so we had to do a push-up plank, pick up the weight, push up plank, pick up the weight with the other hand. And so there was a lot of, and I was looking at all these other girls, and they were doing amazing. And I was like, it was like watching a stork having a seizure when I was going through all of these things. It was crazy because I was awkward and I was wobbly, and they were so not. And then I went to the next one. It was lunges, and I was thinking, oh man, these lunges, my legs are weak. I really need to do something so that I get stronger legs. And I had to go to the next one, and it was this thing with abs, and my abs were weak, and I was just so full of negativity. I'm going all the way around, and then we get back around to the second go around of this beanbag medicine ball thing, and I peel my glasses off my nose because by this time I was sweating, my glasses are awkward, and I get over there and I said to the girls, I'm like, how about we switch around so that we get to do this station 4 times. So 2 times we do balls, 2 times we do the bean bags. And so they're all like, oh yeah, oh, sure, that's a great idea. And then the trainer that goes around, she's like, if you need to listen to your body, if it's difficult, make adjustments as necessary. There's, switch up balls, whatever you need to do. Well, what I didn't know was there was dead weight medicine balls and there's non-dead weight medicine balls. So I said, this 20-pound weight was too much because you had to hold it above your head and throw it down, all that kind of stuff. So this 20-pound one was trying to get, my shoulders were starting to pinch by the time we were getting through the second round. So I said, I really need a lighter ball. So I asked somebody and they handed me this ball and I was like, oh, this is so much better. It was like 12 pounds. And I was like, I got this. And I got into position and our dinger went and I threw it down on the ground as hard as I could. And I bent down to be ready to catch it before it dropped that inch. Well, it wasn't a dead weight ball and it bounced up and it actually bashed me in the face. And as soon, it almost felt like slow motion because it was like the hair on the back of my neck was standing up. I think as soon as I threw the ball, it just felt really, it feels like back in my memory that it was like a slow motion thing. Right. And I remember seeing it coming up and then I was thinking, this is not going to be okay. And I looked up as soon as it hit me in the face and I was kind of like this. And I looked over at the one girl and I had come up and I had fallen backwards onto the ground and I was sitting there And the girls across from me, like, it felt like their eyeballs were like enormous. And then I don't really remember a whole lot right after. And I was sitting on the ground, and then pretty soon I was like bleeding into my hands, and it was like graphic. And as it was going along, I was like, this is nuts. What are you doing? Like, all inside my head, like, you're such an idiot. Like, what are you doing here? You don't belong here. Look at the mess you're making. You've screwed up everybody's day. And like, all this negative, shitty shit talk was going all over again. And I was like, what? So then I was like, instantly, okay, this has got to stop. I came here for a reason, and this is not okay. And so I flipped that switch, and I started, like, immediately I was talking through. By this time they'd gotten me a cloth and ice, and I think ice. And I was talking through this massive thing that I had on my face to try to stop the bleeding. And I was like, I can finish this, right? And they're like, yeah, just not today. And I was like, I'm not quitting. I'm like, I'm not quitting. And then I was like, I think somebody said, you want me to call your husband? And I said, yeah, you probably should, because I was bleeding so much that there was like no way I was going to be able to finish that morning. So they called my husband, and we live about 10 minutes west of town. So he came in. By the time he got into the gym to get me, my whole body started to shake, and it was like, oh, she's shocking. Something's not quite right here. And one of the girls was trying to wipe some of the blood off my hands. And then I said, don't touch my left hand. And one of the girls is like, it's probably not broken. And I was like, I'm pretty sure it's broken. And so by the time she got in, or by the time my husband got in, I was at the back of the gym, and they brought him into the back of the gym, and they managed to get me off the floor. And so he took me to the hospital, and I definitely had a broken left wrist. I had a broken nose. I had a sprained right wrist. So I was actually given everything I asked for that day, because I was looking for more time on my abs. I was looking for more time on my glutes. I wasn't going to quit that. And I got about 12 weeks to think about all that stuff that I was saying to myself that whole entire day. But what I didn't know was how many other people in that gym were having some of the same negative self-talk as I was having. And so when we left the hospital later that day, I actually got my husband to take me straight back to the gym, because I felt, now I might get emotional.
That's okay.
I was just feeling so incredibly out of sorts. Obviously, I was like a mental mess already, and I was like, I have to go right back there, and I have to show them that I'm okay. And I think it was more for me than it was for anybody else, because I don't even remember who all was at the station. I just remember the 3 girls that were in my group before. And I felt, and when I walked through the door, it was like the most incredible, weakest point of my life was like, it was powerful, because I just felt like I was starting over again. And it was like, it was just really, it was kind of surreal, actually. I was just kind of walking through the door, and there was actually somebody in the back of the gym that was had been a weightlifter, kind of somebody that did competitions and stuff, and he's like, holy crap, like, that is mindset for you to walk back through this door. And there I was, like, my face was quite amazing at that point. A great big giant purple cast, which looked like a great big purple club, and my other hand all, bandaged up. And I was just like, I was completely helpless. I was helpless for weeks. I couldn't feed myself. I couldn't dress myself. There was nothing. I was completely helpless. And so that's what I mean by, like, the weakest point of my life. And I had to stop and ask for help for everything. And that was so hard. The very first time I needed help in the bathroom was like, dude, this is not okay.
Yeah.
I was like, this is
you
not
don't
going to
ever
happen.
think that Like as an adult, the last thing you want to do is ask somebody to help you pee, unless it's like your wedding
wipe
or
my bum,
something.
please?
Yeah.
Can you wipe my bum? Can somebody come and help me in the potty, please? It was like, so it was kind of it was like, it was like getting hit in the face. Like,
Yeah.
everybody says that frying pan that hits you in the face, it's just like, it really happened. And it was like the universe was saying, sit your butt down, deal with some of your shit, and, you know, get some of this dealt with. And it was like, there was a lot of thought process, I think, that I needed to go through. And I certainly got a lot of time to just sit in that emotional hormone soup because I couldn't, and it was really hard. Like, I really, really had a hard time asking for help. And it was like, that was on the Sunday. And then Wednesday, I made arrangements for somebody to dress me. My friends picked me up and took me to the gym on Wednesday, like right after, with a water bottle, and somebody put my gym shoes on and tied them for me, and the gym owner took me to the back of the gym, and I finished that whole 6-week challenge. I did it. And it was just, I had to ask for help there too. And that was actually almost easier to ask for help from strangers than it was my own family. And that's something that even after, I still didn't ask for all the right kinds of help because I was still pretty determined to not be in anybody's way. And I forgot the aspect of, sometimes when you ask other people for help, they're serving something inside of them when they can actually help you do something that they're capable of and you're not. And that was hard for me to really accept that and just sort of let other people do it.
And I think it's so true, because there's so often that we feel that by asking for help that we're putting the other person out, or that we're inconveniencing them. And
Yeah.
so, was asking for help something that always was sort of an issue for you? Do you think this was sort of the universe's way of going,
Always.
okay?
Always. I remember as a small child, I'm the youngest of 6, and then we blended families with another family of 6. My stepdad was a widower. His wife was killed in a car accident when his youngest child was 6 weeks old. So we blended families, and we're actually, our birth dates are kind of almost equal. And so I was 6 weeks older than the youngest when we amalgamated families. I was about a year and a half or 2 years old. And I just remember right from the get-go always being one more responsibility for somebody, one more thing to do. And it's like, you need to look after the little ones, or, somebody needs to do whatever. And then, but my mom actually, going through some of the things and talking to my mom said I was always very sensitive of other people around me. And she said I was about 9 months old. And they used to sit us in those plastic, it was actually the car seat. I don't know if you might not. I don't know.
I'm in my 40s.
I have no idea how old you are. And so you have those plastic things that they have, the thin little plastic and the little wire backing that.
Yeah, it was so dangerous. So dangerous, those car seats.
Yeah, safety first. And that was safety back then. We were safe in those little plastic wire. I don't know how we're living sometimes, when I look back at all this stuff. And so my mom said she remembers when I was about 9 months old, and all the older kids, because we were still only the 6 of us at the time, and all the older kids were kind of around me, and I was making like little monkey sounds or something like that. And she said as soon as everybody laughed, she said it was like, that was my thing right from then on, is making other people happy and just sort of doing things for other people. And I remember I don't know if you really call it fast forward, but I remember another time that was kind of a pivotal time for me was I picked up this really pretty thing off the floor and I went to give it to my mom, but it hurt me. And she said it was like my face just fell and I cried and I was just so sad. Well, it was a bumblebee and I had handed it to my mom. I went to hand it to my mom and it bit me. And I just didn't understand how something so pretty could hurt me. And then another time I was about 4 and I found this cutest little tiny thing in this ball diamond across the street from where we lived, and I brought it home and my sisters lost it. It was a mouse. But I didn't know what it was. I just thought it was the cutest thing and I just wanted to share it. But that was like my mom said, like I was always wanting to bring things and do things for people, and it's always been my nature. She said I've always had a gentle nature in that sense, and I like to do things for other people and I don't ask for help, and I didn't. And I actually found myself even more recently still not asking for help and still being stubborn about, not being an inconvenience to anybody. And I slipped and fell on the ice and I re-injured my left wrist again. And it was just like, oh great, now I got to ask for help again. And it was like, well, duh.
You gotta learn, you really have to learn that lesson, Kathryn, because you're going to keep injuring that wrist.
Right. And it was funny. So this weekend I was like, I knew something was going on and I just needed to get away. And I did. I said to my husband, I just said what I needed. And I'm like, I need to get away from everybody here. Like, not in a mean way, but I just needed some space. And my mom doesn't live close to me, and it's about a 7 or so hour drive away. And I just found that as I was going through the driving and thinking, it was like, oh, like, that's when I had the big aha moment where, and I don't know if it's just because I finally heard it. Like, most people need to hear things sometimes 7 times for it to clue in. And sometimes I'm like 12 or 13. So maybe this was, the multiple-ish time when I heard that asking for help is serving another person's need as well. And it was like, so when I finally said to my husband, I'm like, I need to tell you that I need to just get away and get some stuff sorted, because there's just so much going on that I needed to just sort it. But asking for that was just the hardest thing. And then he was like, yeah, go ahead. And I'm like, but it's like Thanksgiving. And he's like, go ahead.
Yeah. And it's funny when we ask for stuff, like I was the same way too. Growing up, I was the youngest kid. And you just didn't, because everybody else had already had anything. So you just didn't ask for stuff. And if you wanted something, you had to figure your own way out. And so it's hard for me, but then, I go through those stages where I burn myself out. Whereas I could have just simply said,
absolutely,
can someone else take this over? Because I really don't have time to do it. And usually people are like, absolutely, not a problem. Like, but I think it's so funny how, that this comes up so often, that people are, not only scared to ask for help, but when it's offered, scared to accept it. And like, even today, I had a friend of mine who, needed to get her brother picked up from school. And I was like, well, my son goes to that school. I'll just pick him up. It's like 5 minutes out of my way to drop him off, at your mom's place. Not a problem at all. And she was like, oh no, I can't do that to you. I'm like, well, it would take you half an hour. It takes, like, I have to go there anyway. And it, and I thought it was funny that it was happening on the same day that I was talking to you, but I thought, isn't that funny how we're so scared when someone's like, no, honestly, it's not an inconvenience, but we're like, no, we can't do that.
Yeah.
And one of the things I liked that you said, and I'm curious to know what you do now, when you had talked about comparing your chapter 1 to someone else's, chapter 4. And I think we do that so often in our lives that we don't really know where another person is, but we play that comparison game. So what do you do now? Well, like when you're faced with that you find yourself starting to compare yourself, what are some of the tools that you use to help get yourself out of that?
Well, gosh, that's a good one. Sometimes I just have to say, you know what? Like, stop it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've heard comparison is the thief of joy like a million times, and it's so true. And then what really, really pulls me out of it is just to stop overthinking stuff, and to stop like over analyzing, and to stop putting my thoughts into everyone else's situation. Like I can't keep sorry, can you hear in the background? um I can't keep thinking about everyone else all the time, and I have to really force myself that. And like yesterday was the first I have talked the talk about doing one thing at a time forever, and it was such a load of BS because I didn't really do it, but I thought I was doing it. And yesterday I did one thing at a time, and you should see all the other one things that didn't get done. But that was like, it's that talk, and I had to stop it. And I say that stop, stop, stop. And I like, I don't say it out loud because I'm pretty sure that if anybody heard me, they'd be like, what is going on over there? But that's what I was doing on the floor that morning, was like, stop it, stop it, stop it, stop it.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I just try to do, is like, stop it. Like, just this is your chapter one. Everybody has a chapter one. Everyone has a start. And everybody's start is shitty and messy. Nothing's perfect. And if it is, someone's lying to you.
Yeah. And I think like, I know we had done an episode of comparison killing motivation. And I think it's so true, because I think it's almost like it's our internal, bad voice that is trying to give us an out, and see, almost like that test to see if we'll take it. Like, I can't go into that room because, they're all smarter than I am, or, I can't go to the gym because everybody's more fit than I am, or they can do more stuff. Meanwhile, those people are thinking this exact same thing.
Well, yeah. And what I didn't know is, by my keeping going, people were like, wow, man, like, here she is with no hands and she's here. Like, what's my excuse? And I didn't even think about it like that. I was just there every week, and I was telling myself, you got this, keep going. You're here for a reason. You're not quitting. You're not backing down. And little did I know that that was rippling over into other people. It was like, after, on the very last day, we had a photo shoot, and like, lots of the girls had said to me, like, it's because of you we kept going. I'm like, there was no way we were going to quit when they were like, you were there with broken hands and we didn't have nothing. We just had a broken attitude. But every day I went, it was like, this is my chapter.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to feel this. I'm supposed to go through this, because I'm going to be able to share it and teach it to somebody else at some point. I'm like, it's got to be serving me somewhere to be able to serve somebody else. And so my experience has to be for a reason. And it's definitely not to quit, because I have been beaten down time and time again, and I just get right back up, because I'm not, it's not my time to quit. And so
and it's a choice, right? It's a choice on whether or not you want to stay down or get up. And, and I agree with you. When I think back, a lot of people will, think back and they go, well, I didn't really have an easy life, but I didn't have it as bad as that guy, and we do that comparison too. And I find that can be damaging too. I'm not saying to sit in your
misery and agony,
or in your misery or whatever, but it's true too on what you said, that I think what people don't realize is, by them living their true life of them, everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, all of that you don't, like you had said, you don't realize the ripple effect it has on people, and how much you just going ahead, you weren't doing that for anybody else, but how many other people you touched just by doing something that, you felt, I have to do this, I have to continue on. And it was for you, but you touched so many other lives, and people don't think of that. They just,
Well, and I was raised in a family like you. Everything was a secret. You tell nobody anything. And nobody needs to know that you're hurting. No one needs to know you're upset. Nobody needs to, you're weak if you tell, you're bragging if you tell, you're crazy if you tell any, if you're not being able, like if you can't do something and you say, I can't do it, you're weak. It was just like, my dad works 7 days a week. I remember him having the flu and being sick off the back of his drilling rig while he's working, because he worked 7 days a week. And it was like, I think I was about 7 or 8 years old, and he had the flu. And I was like, why don't you stay in bed? And he's like, because there's 14 mouths to feed. And that was my first thought of, and then I remember watching my mom. And actually it wasn't until I was an adult that I realized the work ethic came from my parents, and the not quitting and the not giving up and not taking the easy route. Even though in my mind I was always saying, you're weak, you can't do it, you're not as good as everybody else. But I was an adult. I think I was a parent when I realized, growing up, our washer and dryer was in our kitchen. And my mom, for 38 years, never left the kitchen, because she did laundry in the kitchen and dishes in the kitchen and feeding 14 people, plus my dad's workmen. She made lunches for them too. And that poor woman never left the kitchen.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I was an adult that I realized that I never once heard her complain. I never once heard my dad complain. My dad wasn't the easiest person to live with. But it was like, I think it was just the way they were raised, is it needs to be done, so you just do it.
Yeah.
And I just, no matter what happened, I've had some pretty crummy things happen to me over the years. And it was like, well, you got to get back up. You got to keep going, because you got to.
Yeah.
And then I joined that fitness challenge and it was, I've never even, like I said, I was never in a gym before. And it was just like, I'm doing this for me. I don't know why I'm doing it for me, but I'm doing it for me. And it was like, if I'd have known I was going to get my face bashed in by a ball, I may have made a different choice. But at the same time, I think all the lessons kind of brought me to getting back up one more time and proving to myself that I am worth it. I can do it. I can ask for help, and I can be served. And just as I have served over and over and over in the past.
And that are you finding more now that, and it'll always be a struggle, because I think it's an internal conversation that you constantly have, but do you find now that you're able to get a better handle on the guilt that's usually associated with asking for help?
Yes. Yeah, I don't hesitate as much as I used to. Like, I will be like, okay, am I asking for help because I really need help, or am I asking for help because I want a way out? So there's that process too. It's like, do I just want somebody to do this with me, or do I just not want to do it? Or like, why do I want to do it? Like, I put more thought into it, which sometimes is maybe overthinking it a little bit, but at least I'm at the point where I'm asking for the right kinds of help now, I feel, and I'm able to say, this isn't working for me. I did say though that I would probably get home care if anybody else in my house needed to have help in the bathroom. I do realize that that's the kind of help that I cannot give.
But that's another lesson learned, right? Like, now you know what your own limitations are.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that, that component of you just, really learning perseverance through all of this and not giving up, even though, and I think that's an important, lesson for people to even look at in their own lives, of thinking back to those moments where it could have been easy to just give up, but you put it through, even though you didn't have hands that you could use and you couldn't put on your own shoes, you still made the effort to go to the gym. And it wasn't about perfection. It was just about sticking to your word, to yourself.
Yeah,
I think that's
it was actually probably what kind of spurred me through that a little bit too, was having Erin Sky Kelly. I remember hearing one time, she's like, okay, how do we get from here to there? What do we need to get to? And it was like, it was a situation like that where I could hear that, okay, so how how do I get myself out of this? I really got myself into this. How do I get myself out of this? How do I move forward? How do I? And the first thing that kept saying is like, you need to ask. You need to ask for help. You need to ask for support. And you need to ask for what you need. And it was like, oh, I wish I didn't have to get everything broken to to be able to get that lesson, because it really didn't feel very good.
But maybe and I find, my mom has always said to me, like I'll say, the same thing keeps happening, and she's like, yep, and it's going to keep happening. Like the universe is trying to show you a lesson, and if you're not going to learn it, the lesson's going to get harder and harder and harder, and then eventually it will just smack you across the face with it until you figure it out. So that was your smack across the face.
That was one serious smackdown.
So now what do you find, like, since all of this happened, what are some of the changes that you've made sort of even in your everyday life that you're doing stuff for you? Is there anything like specific, like taking walks, or is there something that you do now that you weren't doing before because of this experience?
Yes, actually, I am doing a lot more time blocking. Because I was packing things in and I was getting to the point where it was like, I could do this. If somebody needed something, I can do it. If a group needed something, I could do it. And it was just like, I can, and I can myself right onto the couch.
Yeah.
And so now it's like, I could, however, I'm getting really good at that part.
Yeah.
However, that just doesn't fit with, whatever it is that I'm working on that week, or that whatever. Right now I'm working on being away next week. And so there was some things came up, and something I really wanted to do next Friday. And it's like, okay, well, I'm already going to be, so does this actually fit in? And I'm really being a lot more mindful about the choices that I'm making and why I'm making those choices. And I have a lot of learning to do. I think that we learn something new every day, and I'm actually excited to learn something new every day, because it's teaching me how to be more mindful of that decision, and of like saying yes or saying no. And sometimes I've said yes, and it's like,
Yeah.
why
And
did
you
you do
regret
that?
it. Mm-hmm.
And then I regret it. And then there's times where I've just sat in that regret. And then there's times that I've picked up the phone and just said, I know I said yes, but I'm so, so grateful that you're patient. And I have to say I can't come.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to figure some things out over the last little bit. And that was one of the things that came up is saying yes when I really mean no, because that's not valuing them either. But
Yeah.
I didn't understand that. That was like giving them a lesser part of me, which nobody deserves that. Everybody deserves all of the greatness. And I think we all have an more enormous amount of greatness in us that we just don't even know is there.
Yeah.
Until we sit in something that makes us aware of it, makes us think about it, makes us realize that by saying yes to 1,000 things, you're only giving like a percentage of what you could if you said yes to like 10 and did amazing. And so those are some of the things that I think those are some of my greatest lessons out of this whole thing, is to stop spreading myself so thin, because I didn't understand actually. And that was one of the things actually at Transformation Weekend Aaron talked to me about, was do one thing at a time. And I was like, okay. And I was like doing one thing here and one thing here and one thing here and one thing here, convincing myself I was doing one thing at a time. But in 100 areas, I was still doing one thing.
Yeah.
And so paring it back and being able to say, you know what, this just doesn't fit with where I'm headed right now, or it just doesn't work with my schedule right now. Maybe I can work it in next time. Or so that was a huge lesson for sure.
Yeah. And I think too, what I love the most about just being human is that we can reinvent ourselves. So who you were as a child or how you grew up Doesn't have to be who you are as a young adult. Doesn't have to be, you don't have to get old. You can just keep reinventing who you want to be. And I never know. Like, I hated the question when I was young, what do you want to be when you grow up?
I don't
And
even know what that is now.
I don't know. I change it all the time. I'm like, well, today, today, this is what I'm going to be, and I think that people tend to forget that, right? We stick ourselves into these scenarios where we feel like this is who we have to be for the rest of our lives. And this is how we have to feel, and that you can change that. And it is as simple as, the kids who are like, I am Batman today. And then the next day they're like, I'm a princess. And it can be that easy. You just have to make the decision to say, this is who I want to be now.
And it's funny that you say that, because yesterday I did like one thing at a time and not more than one thing at a time all day. And while it felt really weird, because I never actually really honestly and truly did just one thing at a time until yesterday, which is really funny. But that also came from being away for driving for a while, because I was listening to Jack Canfield's Aladdin Factor, and they're learning a lot of stuff on Audible. And so just doing the one thing at a time. And then I was going to an event in the evening. I had to support a friend that I knew was coming up for quite some time. And I decided out of the blue, I'd never done this before, which seems really simple to some people. It might seem really corny. I've never worn high heels and jeans before. And I wore red ones.
Oh, awesome.
And they felt really good, actually, I have to say. I am about 6'2" when I wear heels, which is, I've always felt a little awkward about my height around certain areas, but I just felt so good in these ridiculous red high heels in my jeans last night. And this lady walked in and she goes, and every single person that walked in was like, those shoes are amazing. And then they felt amazing. And it was interesting to have like something I've never done before that was so simple, feels so amazing, but be so outside of what the norm. Like, and I think that we sometimes need to do something that we've never done before, even if it is just wearing red high heels in your jeans, right? So
that's awesome.
It sort of put me in a different frame of mind. It put me in a different feeling, and I just felt so powerful and sassy in these red shoes.
As you should. And I think that is the perfect thing that we should challenge all of the listeners with, to do something, even if it's just as simple as pulling out some red pumps in your jeans, but do something that you have never done before. No matter how small it is, just try it and be uncomfortable and enjoy the discomfort and see if you like it. And if not, don't do it again.
Yeah.
But I think you're going to be doing the red heels and the jeans again. Am I right?
Oh, yeah. I was like, oh, I think I need to go shopping now.
Always a good excuse.
I'm working on a consumer debt-free thing right now. And so when I'm consumer debt-free, I'm taking myself on a shopping spree, because my husband was actually helping me do laundry not long ago, and he's holding up some of my stuff, and he's like, you really need to go shopping.
I remember this from, Well, we can't wait to see those pictures. You're going to have to make sure you share them with us. Thank you so much for Kathryn for sharing your story with us. I think it's such an important story. And I think it's important not only for you to tell it, but I think it's important for people to hear it, because it inspired me so much when I heard it that night. And I was grateful that I got to, and I'm grateful that I get to share it with everybody as well. So we look forward to seeing you on the rest of your journey. And you'll have to send me a picture of the jeans and the heels if you took one.
I don't know if there's a picture, but I will wear them again. Absolutely.
That sounds good.
Often, I think.
I am so thankful to Kathryn for all of her wisdom and sharing her story with us. And one of the biggest things I think that I myself personally took away from talking with her was that asking for help is actually serving another person as well. And she said it to me a couple of times, and every time I go, yeah, you know what? It's right. Asking for help is something that I struggle with, because I feel like I need to do everything all by myself. But I realized that sometimes even just accepting when someone else wants to help me is just as important because it helps them too. And so that's just one of the many things I took out of our conversation. So I want to know, what was your favorite part of Kathryn's story? What was it that really hit a chord with you? Head over to wherever it is that you like to get social. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You can email us. You can head over to our website and message us on our blog, whatever works for you. I want to hear from you. What inspires you? And through everything that you're doing, as I always say at the end of every episode, say it with me now, remember to have fun. Because if you're not having fun, why are you doing it?